proof that God exists? Well, we're going to look at that because it's the Wednesday Wisdom Show, and you need to know. So is it possible within our reason and through material analysis and logic to prove to a person that God exists, whatever God might be, right? We lack a proper definition in the first place, but let's say we're in agreement that we want a general acknowledgement that there is a managing force, and it is everything, and everything arises from it, and there's a level of care and direction that comes from this. We want to know, in general, is it possible to prove it within human reason, by means of human reasoning, and on the level of physical sciences and logic? And the answer is no, it's not. But does that mean that there is no proof? No. It just means that that's the wrong place to look for it. And it's the wrong place to look for it because it's half the picture. And it's only one quality that we're looking at in the entirety of life, where we are trying to sense something that is beyond our normal sensation. And the whole system is not made up of what we see in our reason. It's also made up of something that is opposite to our reason. What's lacking here is an understanding of how we prove things to ourselves and what we feel as true, real, dependable, and how we confirm those things to ourselves. Even on the physical level, the way we know something is never by an essence, and we're actually asking a question here that is a question about an essence. The essence of everything. So there is no way, even on the physical level, that we can know an essence because we have no sensation of essences. An essence is a thing in itself, and we only know things, human logic and even our sense organs only know by comparing qualities out of which arises a delta, a difference between these two things, and there is what we call our sense of something. And we confirm those things, and we share those sensations with others. I don't mean we just talk about them, but that they're common. Now, what is that practically? Well, there's no sensation of light on its own. If we didn't have the comparison of the dark, we wouldn't be able to sense that there was any brightness. And in fact, in space, it's clear that space is full of light, but you don't see that light unless there is an object which is not lit that is standing in the way of the light, and there is a resistance there, and suddenly that moon is lit up. Otherwise, if that moon weren't there, you would not even be able to see the rays of light that was coming from our sun, or that actually fills the entire cosmos. We don't know whether something is hot or cold at all, unless we have both of those elements compared to each other, and in that place where they meet together, the difference between those two things gives us our sensation, a touch sensation of an intensity of something that we call heat. All human perception is like that. But we're trying to get a sensation of something that is, say, deeper or higher than our material perception, because we don't see God on this level at all. And we don't actually know where we are, but where we are is in an integral system. That we appear to be a bunch of individuals, but we don't actually exist like that, and science tells us a number of things that are very interesting about this question. Number one, it tells us that we live in an ecology, in other words, in a large system in which everything is really interdependent to a much greater degree than we perceive at all. The reason we don't perceive it is that we don't feel the difference between us and the force that manages that whole thing. When an element, and you and I, we are elements in this integral system, when we want to know something about the higher level, or even to fulfill ourselves, it is impossible. No element in an integral system can fulfill itself. It's dependent completely on the state of the entire system. That's why such phenomena as the butterfly effect exists. If a butterfly flutters its wings in Guatemala, it could ultimately result in a hurricane or a typhoon in the Indian Ocean. That there is no part of reality that doesn't have a direct and profound effect on all parts of the reality. But exactly how, we don't know, because we don't have a sensor for that. So if an individual wants to know, show me proof that there is a God, it is impossible for that to go into a single element as an answer, because the answer lies in the integral system against the force that creates and manages the system, not from the individual against the integral system. That's only one level. Now, is there a managing force in our reality? Well, even on the physical level, science says yes, there is. They call it quantum, a quantum field. And in this field, there are no things at all. There is only potential and what we think of as forces or waves or something. But what it really is some kind of potential connecting and arranging force, not limited by the qualities that we have. In fact, its qualities are opposite. There's no time there, and there are experiments to show that the movement of some wave in one part of the universe, if it is connected, and according to the quantum concept, it absolutely is connected to another wave hundreds of millions of light years away. If one moves, they both move because they are connected. So we're just looking at points here, but its quality is something absolutely opposite to our experience. And we don't have a sense of it. And not only do we not have a sense of it, we are repelled by it. Everything in our nature says to us, no, we don't want to know about this kind of connection. We want to feel ourselves only as single points in a system, and we don't even want to acknowledge that we're in an integral system. So how difficult is it going to be to get an answer about whether or not this thing exists when in our basic nature we reject the idea that it exists? So this accounts, and I'm only speaking physically here, but there is a spiritual aspect to this, something even deeper than the quantum level. We reject most of reality, we reject the opposite of our nature, and we have no sense of it. Therefore, we have nothing to compare it to, and we don't want to compare it. Now, the question gets really confused for us because unlike something like a hive of bees or a herd of animals, flock of birds that function on instinct, humans function to a certain degree by instinct too, but there's something else in us, something hugely different. We have also in us this thing that Kabbalists call the point in the heart, which is not a perception, but a remnant, a spark of the opposite system that we need to learn, of the singularity, of the one and uniqueness of that force that superior force, that managing level, that is one and unique. But we mistake that as what we call me, I. But it doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to any individual. Now, this thing that is in us is capable of building itself to the point where it can sense where that me actually exists. Who and does it belong to? Now here's the answer to this question. We have 5 sense organs, and all of them work, as I said, by comparison. But we don't have a sense organ for what we need to be comparing in order to know whether there is or there isn't a creator, a God. We have to develop an additional sense. And the only way that we can develop this sense is by having at least some type of resistance to the thing that we take for granted. What is it that we take for granted? That everything arises out of this quantum or spiritual field, becomes arranged for a certain reason which we don't understand, and does good to us. We don't have a sense of that. We can't feel this spiritual light at all because we never resist reception. We never resist the formation that comes out of this field and works for our good. We only feel the things on the physical plane through our physical senses, the small comparisons that we do out of the mind and reason that it created for us. If we are to know its reason for doing things and that it exists, we have to have a kind of a resistance that shows us the light that is actually shining there. Once you have a resistance, you have a barrier. You know then that something is hitting that barrier. What is the resistance to? It's a resistance to receiving for ourselves. It's a resistance to seeing ourselves as separate. It is a resistance to being unconsciously evolved. No answer to whether there is a God or not is going to drop in as a gift into any element in the integral system, meaning you. It has to be something that is attained through an active and a conscious engagement with it. And the way that we engage with it, the Kabbalists say, is by building a thing called a screen. It is an anti-egoistic, anti-material decision, an intention that says it wants to act only for the same reason that the upper force acts. In other words, that it will not receive except to fulfill the desire of the upper force, an additional sense that allows us to feel the action of the upper force against the action of our created nature. It's super nature. It's supernatural, but not like the Halloween kind of supernatural. And this additional sense is not the sixth sense of the lady who tells your fortune. It is an additional sense that allows us to compare these two things in us. Kabbalists who have attained this, who have done this, have a direct sensation of this upper force that is called God or the Creator. Anybody can attain this, but not within themselves. Because we are only individual elements in an integral system. What we need to attain is the connection, the force connecting those things. Because that's the place in which that upper quantum potential godly force exists. And we have to make this whole level opposite to the whole upper level. And when we do that through connection, we begin to get that sense. Now, it is a thing that people can learn. We can learn how to connect in the same way that the upper force connects. We can achieve that. We can build this additional sense through a method which is proven over thousands of years, which is accessible to anybody with this point in the heart who truly wants to know this. But it's work. It's good work. It's exciting work. It's fascinating work. And it's the kind of thing that is going to do good, not just for you, because you're not just you, but for the entire system, for all of mankind. And if that's the kind of work and purpose that you see in your life, then why not learn how to do that? And you can help us get the message out to other people by liking, sharing, and subscribing.